Hi, everybody. This is a lecture that has to do with the conditions facing migrant workers during the Great Depression. The Dust Bowl refers to an area of the southern plains of the United States struck by severe drought in the 1930s, including parts of Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, New Mexico, and Colorado. In previous decades, the federal government had given away 160-acre plots of land to encourage settlement and farming in the region. The farmers who settled in the area plowed under the native grasses that had evolved to survive periodic droughts, leaving the soil exposed. When years of drought descended on the area starting in 1931, the dry topsoil was swept up in massive dust storms. Dust drifted like snow, and windstorms left areas of the Midwest covered in inches of dust. Airborne dust was a serious health hazard, even causing death in some cases. The drought and dust storms also destroyed the economy of the region, which was already reeling from the effects of the Great Depression. Tens of thousands of destitute farmers abandoned the region, many moving to California to seek agricultural work. Many of the impoverished Dust Bowl immigrants to California settled in temporary shanty communities. Safety and disease were major concerns in these makeshift encampments. To help poor migrants, the Roosevelt administration created the Resettlement Administration. Among other things, this New Deal program built dozens of camps to house Dust Bowl migrants in California. The Resettlement Administration was unpopular in many California communities because residents didn't want Okies, which is a disparaging term for migrants, staying in their towns. To build support for its programs, the Resettlement Administration hired several photographers to take pictures to sway public opinion. Dorothea Lange, who owned a successful photography studio in San Francisco, was one of the photographers hired. Lange traveled up and down the West Coast taking photos of impoverished migrants and the conditions they faced. Lange's most famous photograph, which later became known as Migrant Mother, depicts Florence Owens Thompson and three of her seven children at their makeshift shelter in Nipomo, California. Thompson, who was Cherokee, had moved from Oklahoma to California with her husband in the 1920s, years before the Dust Bowl. Thompson claimed decades later that Lange had promised her that she wouldn't publish the photo. However, Lange sent it to the Resettlement Administration and to the San Francisco News. The news published the photo in a story about Thompson's camp. Over time, it became an iconic image, with many citing it as evidence of the terrible conditions facing Americans during the Great Depression. Now, here's the central historical question. This is what we are going to investigate. Although the photograph is often used as an example of the human effects of the Great Depression, many neglect to think carefully about the photograph as historical evidence. Today, we are going to look closely at this photograph and consider its strengths and weaknesses as evidence of the living conditions facing migrant workers during the Great Depression. And there are a few slides here that have pictures that we are going to be looking at as actual documents. And that's it. See you in class.